Your next career move could be the one you never imagined. Web3 nomads, everywhere jobs for anywhere people.
And we're back. We have good friends of ours joining us today. It's long overdue. We have the Maia DAO co-founders all together. So today you are joining three frogs and an ape. I love it. Only that kind of thing happens. Only that kind of thing happens in crypto and particularly in DeFi. Guys, welcome. It's awesome to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome to be here. Yeah, it's really a pleasure.
Yeah, it means a lot. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, man. Kind of like wanted to Bugsy Forever, the quiet one.
Yeah, it's totally a pleasure to be here. Didn't want to overextend the greeting, but I'm here.
Yeah, man. Cool. Thanks for joining us, guys. It's been quite an interesting journey just working with you guys. Going through this process of essentially, I mean, I remember when we first chatted, I don't remember who it was, but you guys pretty much came to us and said we need to educate the apes. It's really important that we educate the apes around what it is that we're doing. And when we take a closer look at kind of the journey that you guys have been on, and setting up, it's been over a year now. You guys launched, was what, the 4th of January? When did you guys launch?
Yeah, exactly.
So 4th of January 2022. It's been a year later. There's been a lot happened. I just saw one of the posts on Twitter that you guys have got incredible liquidity at the moment. Let's look at where you guys are at now and speak to what it is that you guys are doing. Tell us, in as much of a nutshell as you can, what it is that Maia DAO has on offer.
Yeah, so we started out as a DAO. So we bootstrapped the treasury with bonds, and now we've built an AMM. It's essentially a Solidity fork, and yeah, we're now building the V2, improving on this. Basically, we have I believe 4 months now. We're the major AMM in metis. So yeah, it's been we're now shifting to just not gonna talk about V2 yet. Sorry. So
But yeah, there's definitely been a journey. Once we launched, we obviously didn't even have an AMM in our ecosystem. It was simply with when Andre promoted basically the Solidity model, we were captivated by it and saw the benefits and decided to hop in and implement it basically as soon as we could, as our team had the engineering throughput to do so.
So, I mean, you guys, I know that for a long time that, there was kind of like a debate within the metis community around just, kind of like the simple function of a DEX that had the liquidity in order to, facilitate payments. And this is something that hasn't really been spoken about in terms of what it is that you guys have created. I mean, you guys have got your own DEX there, which is essentially the AMM aspect of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it's now, you've reached an incredible milestone where you guys have the majority of the liquidity as a sole,
and the volume as well.
And the volume as well. So that happened quite recently. Obviously, we've seen this incredible influx over the last sort of 6 weeks where, we went from full raging bear to full raging bull. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but that's what's happened. And a lot of that liquidity has come into it, and you guys have managed to capture it quite beautifully. When did you guys decide that you needed to actually do this? Is it just because there wasn't one on metis and like, let's just build it? I mean, what was the rationale? What were you guys thinking at the time?
Oh, basically, in short, kind of like I said, we saw what solidly what the model was bringing into the space, and we were actually the first solidly based AMM to be live with the AMM itself, and this happened even after solidly launched on Phantom.
Okay.
So Metis was actually the first chain to have a functioning Solidity fork.
Yeah, only the AMM, but we did launch the AMM in the 4th of February, basically one month after launching Maia, and Crony only launched his like almost like 3 weeks after. So yeah, it was really fun to set up the AMM like for the first time and showcase that it was really it was what people expected, and it had the stable AMM was nice, and it still is. So
yeah, wonderful to see it in action.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you guys are essentially like at the core of it. You guys are a Solidity fork, right?
Yeah.
Basically, in its current iteration, Hermes is effectively a Solidity fork. If you want, you can take this one light and add it more.
Yeah, we did a couple of changes because we launched the AMM before Cronia, but we did not launch how do you call it, the reward system before him. So we launched the reward system over a month after launching the AMM. So that was because the AMM actually changed slightly after we launched it. He separated the fees, but yeah, not gonna go into technical, but we did a couple of changes even to the reward system. For example, only the DAO can whitelist tokens because to avoid the Batman pools that happened at the time. So there were a couple of things like this that we changed to well avoid some problems that happened in the original launch, not the original, the official.
Yeah, the
So
original
launch.
Solidity, exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say were the most kind of like challenging aspects in terms of the original kind of Solidity code that was launched, you know, at its inception, like that you guys found challenging or problematic that you felt that you needed to change, and why was that the case?
I mean, every team that was working on it at the time, we even gathered with some of them and had meetings at the time. Everyone had at least the same issue with the lack of documentation, but overall, I don't believe there were any other major barriers. But as you can understand, this Solidity was a project developed by a sole developer, Andre. So it's normal that some of these periphery resources were lacking at the time.
Okay. And then, I mean, it's kind of like, it seems like it's very much a part of the culture that you guys have cultivated, that if there is something that needs to be done, it's like, well, let's do it ourselves. I mean, in terms of the team, I mean, there's the three of you now as co-founders. I mean, how big is your team at the moment?
Yeah, so basically accounting for all the sectors with both writing and community management, we account for 7 basically constant and team members. Then we have community contributors, obviously, since we operate as a DAO in a DAO structure. But on our payroll, we have 7 contributors. 3 of them are the core development team, and then we have other developers and the community managers.
What I really found interesting about the approach that you guys took from a community level is that, in my experience of, you know, interacting with projects and, you know, founders and obviously communities, is that a lot of people talk about DAOs, but in many ways they don't implement almost like the rigidity. I find that you guys are very rigid in a set amount of rules that are in place that need to be in place. And that is that you guys do weekly AMAs. It's almost like you almost hold yourselves accountable to the community in probably one of the most transparent, if not the most transparent way that I've seen. And I believe in many ways that you guys prescribe to what I believe DeFi is about, especially within a DAO structure and within a DAO, you know, delivery of things. So that's kind of like the positive side of things. What do you guys find are the challenges within running a DAO and being accountable to the DAO at the same time?
Yeah, first of all, I just thank you very much. That really means a lot. That's really what we try to do. So yeah, thank you very much for that, for those words. I think the sad truth is that DAOs are just starting out, and most of them are really centralized. For now, since we don't really have an on-chain governance, we do need to make that and and act as the same as those contracts would act. So I believe that's what we try to do, just to really try to be transparent as possible and just act as a contract will do. But we that's not always. I don't think that's really a hard thing to do. It's just sad that we don't have that implemented yet. Not really sad. We're gonna have that in V2, the full on-chain governance, and that's what we're shifting to. We're just growing out and building, as you said earlier. We launched over a year, and we're gonna have that, but it takes time. It doesn't really need, it can also be rushed. So things need to grow slightly organically before having a really on-chain governance. So I think we're on the right path.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's completely normal. Everyone has heard about the basically on-chain governance and DEX. So obviously implementing this is something that has to be done with care. And
exactly.
I wouldn't have put it any better. Light.
Thank you.
In terms of the roles that you guys have undertaken between the three of you, so I mean, we've been working with you guys for a number of months now, and I actually quite pride myself in like the online interaction. I've been doing it for a very long time, and you kind of pick up on the nuances that people bring, especially in the online context. And I can honestly say that normally you always get one dominant person or two dominant people within a group, especially with three founders. With the three of you, I don't find that. I find that you guys, so this is what makes, I think, your DAO policy and management successful, is that I don't feel that either one of you is kind of like the dominant factor in the three people that are sitting here. And I find that quite fascinating, because I don't see like Light as being kind of like the one who's in charge, or Bugsy or Marshall. It's like you guys bring your own thing to the table, and it's kind of like there's a respect amongst the three of you. And first of all, I need to ask the question, Light, what is your role within Maia DAO? And I'm going to ask the question for Bugsy and Marshall, but I'm starting with you, Light, because your mic is on.
Sorry, I can just unmute it. Sorry. But yeah, right now my role is I think it's the same as Bugsy, I say, and is doing the Solidity contracts and helping managing the DAO. I do have basically an account in the multi-sig, as Bugsy and Marshall has. So we're basically doing the smart contracts and making them, testing them, and that's what we've been doing currently, and managing with Zelic and stuff.
And Marshall, what is your role, sir?
Yeah, so I'm more focused on the UI side.
Okay.
Obviously, we all manage the DAO. So yeah, that's kind of more of my role to manage the UI team and to make sure everything's okay.
Cool. So that's actually the first time since I've known you guys, and it's like I said, several months, that, I mean, I should have asked that question ages ago, but normally I figure it out. You kind of like interact with somebody or a team and you kind of figure it out. But you guys very much operate on an equal basis, which is really cool to see. And like I said, I think it just supports the whole notion of, like the system that doesn't single out individuals as being better than other individuals, because unfortunately we do live in a society that does that. And it's very refreshing to see that, because you guys chose to be anonymous, you've taken that on. It's kind of like, I almost see it as a responsibility. And I know that it's like a lot of people are asking, why are we actually chatting about this? Well, the reason why I believe it's important to chat about it is that what crypto does at its very essence is that it doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't really matter who it is that we're engaging with, as long as those people are transparent and are accountable to a particular system. That's all we really need. And I think that in many ways, besides having a great protocol and an AMM and whatever it is that you guys create, I think at the very core of it, and at the very core of DeFi, we need this system that allows for free flow of information and for, very importantly, transactions to happen. And I think you guys might just go down in DeFi history as being one of those kind of like contributors to that. I hope so anyways. Anyways, moving on from that and my little philosophical rant, I wanted to
I just want to actually agree with what you said and basically reinforce that our space effectively does not like main characters from a historic standpoint.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. And obviously the most likely 75% of the people that came up to your mind are actually doxed individuals. So it really goes to show that accountability and legitimacy is not related to being doxed or not. It's really, like you said, a matter of being accountable for your actions.
Very good point. I mean, I didn't actually think beyond just versus anon versus docs, but if the system is, like you said, if the system is if it's fluid and it works the way that it should, then it doesn't matter, whether you doxed or undoxed or, living in a basement or in a cave, it's irrelevant. It's kind of like, it's kind of like if you haven't paid your dues and the contract says that you're going to get liquidated, you will get liquidated and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's what we need. We need a system that allows for that kind of rigidity in a way. Just coming back to obviously the protocol itself and the various components of the protocol, I'd like to investigate what products you guys currently have. So let's just recap what it is that we chatted about earlier on. Let's start from the top. Starting point to your latest product. What are those products and what is it that they do?
Yeah, so we have I know, go ahead, Mark.
Oh shit. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, as we've said, we started with building Maia, and soon after we developed Hermes. As you know, we're currently on the auditing process of the V2, and with that, it will come with two new products, which are Talos and Ulysses. Talos being an omni-chain liquidity. Management system. Sorry, I forgot the words. And Ulysses is kind of the layer that connects the whole omni-chain environment. Kind of putting it as simple as I can.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, by putting together the omni-chain environment, what he's referring to is effectively the omni-chain communication, so sending messages across different chains and managing the balances as well as unifying the liquidity.
So are you guys using like a layer zero principle, or are you looking at kind of like the traditional bridging process from an omni-chain perspective?
So we're currently basically, like we said, this is an omni-chain system, and on top of that, we provide basically a native asset bridgeless transfers. So you can basically transfer a native asset from one chain and receive a native asset directly on another chain without having to basically manage any wrapped assets. So those situations where basically the receipts that are emitted are larger than the actual native balance on that chain, that does not happen with our system.
So have you guys developed essentially your own omni-chain communication protocol, or is this something that you've
No.
done?
Yeah, we are using AnyCall from multi-chain. So
Okay.
they're along the I believe they're the first messaging layer, or at least open to the public, and they Bugsy is into it more than me, but they have a really awesome protocol.
Exactly. Completely battle tested in terms of both the volume of liquidity it manages as well as the uptime the protocol itself has. So it has some history already.
Why multi-chain and not layer 0?
So basically, at the time of the decision, and when we were basically making the first integrations of the omni-chain system that we are now auditing, at the time, layer 0 was a much more a much recent basically a much more recent protocol, and the motivating factor was definitely us knowing that multi-call or any call in this case, which is the cross-chain messaging product that multi-chain provides, is effectively more battle tested as exists for a longer period of time. It has worked with really large sums of volumes. This is something that Stargate currently has already also done with huge partnerships. And but on our end, we decided to go the what at the time was effectively the safe route. And if you look at other DeFi giants like Curve, they chose to integrate with AnyCall. So just to give some further reference as well.
Great. I really appreciate that, because obviously, when it comes to bridging and the rest of it, and especially from an omni-chain perspective, security is everything. I know that you guys are currently in the process of doing your audits and preparing for essentially chapter 2 in your journey. Totally get it. I mean, I really like layer 0. I think layer 0 has been a bit of a game changer, but I don't think what you guys are doing is any different. And the fact that you obviously reliant on something that's battle tested is extremely important. In terms of the chains that you guys are looking to deploy, what chains are you looking to do to transact on? Are you minimizing that initially, or what is the scope that you're looking at?
Yeah, so in the beginning we're planning to be deployed on all the UniV3 chains. So that will be mainnet, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Polygon. And we also want to launch in Avalanche, metis, of course. That's where we currently stand, and the Phantom. Those are the ones that we're looking on right now.
And on the L1 side, you forgot Binance Smart Chain, and the fact that Uniswap v3 is also deployed on Polygon, so that those two will also be featured. But yeah, that's exactly the list.
Yeah, it slipped my mind.
Great. I mean, I wanted to also just understand in terms of access to liquidity in this process, because in terms of omni-chain, you obviously have I mean, obviously I'm using, I don't know if this is the right word, but you obviously have a central point where you have liquidity, and I would assume that would be metis. And then through the messaging system, you essentially are prescribing liquidity across to other ecosystems. Is that fundamentally how it works? And if it isn't, can you correct me? Because that's my understanding of it.
Well, in short, in terms of basically the omni-chain architecture of the system, we have a set of branch chains. These can be, for example, metis or mainnet or whatever it may be. And a user who is hoping to interact with one of our omni-chain apps will send a request to a router on his chain. The router will then deposit the tokens that the user wants to basically use in the local port and send a message to the omni-chain environment. In the omni-chain environment, this liquidity is then virtualized, and we are able to perform any set of actions we would like to do. For example, interact with Talos, interact with Maia, Hermes, whatever it may be. So this is really an open-ended system, and the omnichain environment resides in Arbitrum, tapping into the liquidity of Uniswap v3 concentrated liquidity, which exists there. So this, in short, is the layout. And in terms of exiting, for example, if the user that we were referring to was performing a cross-chain swap, for example, he can then have native assets being cleared from the port of the destination chain of his choice. So this really opens up doors in terms of composability and what is possible to be built on top of Ulysses. Since Hermes, Maia, and Talos are simply the first apps to be deployed on this omni-chain execution environment.
So, I mean, the interesting thing about what it is that I was thinking as you were telling me all of these interesting facts is like, first of all, can I give you all my money? And secondly, you guys must have a really tough time keeping the focus in light of what it is that you could possibly build. I mean, how do you even sleep? How do you guys even actually manage to like not lose your minds in this space? Because from my understanding, I'm just listening to you guys speak, I mean, there really isn't anything that you guys couldn't effectively do in this space. How do you guys actually keep the focus? I'd really love to know.
Well, unfortunately, you cannot build everything. So it's super important for Maia DAO ecosystem to have strong partnerships, and that's something we are fostering. So they can come and to build on top of our omni-chain execution environment and tap into the liquidity that we have there and all the services that we have for them.
I mean, this is
just
obviously...
want to
Go for it.
I just want to add that there, basically, as Bugsy said, the partnerships, for example, UniV3 is not really an official partnership per se, but it's something that's already built and that can be used. So, like even in a matter of decentralization, so any smart contract can eventually be implemented if that's desired. So, yeah, I think we don't need to do it all because there's also always other people doing the same building stuff. So yeah.
I know that you, I mean, Bugsy, you obviously alluded to partners and lights as well, and I know that you guys have been in discussions for a while. Are there any partners that you guys have got official deals in place at the moment? Is it something that you guys can talk about, or are we going to save it for another time?
Maybe it would be ideal to get into it another time. There are effectively already 3 to 4 partnerships that are public and have been long-standing. But the large sum of them is dependent on the audits that are currently ongoing. So as soon as these are basically in a later stage of development, we should have news on that area.
In terms of your current partnerships, you've obviously got Uniswap v3. Who else is there in terms of that's known? Just for the sake of our listeners who are listening in for the first time.
Yeah, we do have multi-chain. We have obviously we're talking with Arbitrum, and but that's really something that will only be shared and have announcements on when we launch. We do have Aerarium, we do have metis, and we do have the projects in metis like Era and Hermes and TTs. Yeah, UniV3 is not really an official partner. We actually, with your help, we actually passed a proposal for the low BP fees on Arbitrum, but yeah, they're not really something that we have. For example, we don't have any grant with them. They don't really have these kind of partnerships per se.
Yeah, it would be awesome to participate in a grant for them. And I would also like to add, in continuation to what Light said, that it makes total sense for us to basically look to establish strong partnerships, not only with the ecosystems themselves, like the example he gave from Arbitrum, but with native projects from the ecosystems that we are basically accessing. So yeah, there's really a lot where we can get into on those regards.
Explain to me in terms of if I am a protocol and I do X, Y, and Z, how do you facilitate, for example, building on top of what Maia DAO has at the moment? Can you explain that process in simple terms for me?
So in short, like any of the current V model system, they're very appealing for projects or in specific pool aggregators and yield aggregators to build on top of the incentive system. The incentive system in this case being Hermes with the B33 system. But if you look at any of our products, you will find ways of integrating with them. And when we talk, when our business development team reaches out to a project, they already have in mind basically the approach and what protocols will most likely be more appealing to the partner we're trying to establish. So if you look at, for example, Ulysses itself, you can a partner. Let's imagine a partner who has a money market. You can, if you want, deploy an instance of his money market in our omni-chain environment, and basically provide this feature the same way that both Talos and Hermes are accessible to the omni-chain liquidity and omni-chain environment, add his own protocol and earn fees from there. So this is simply the two simplest and most obvious examples that I could think of. But if you look at any of our products, we'll most likely find ways of integrating with them and see how this can be useful for other protocols. And on top of this, we also have a partner program in place, which is going to be announced. So obviously, if any protocol team member is listening to this, news will come out on those regards. So yeah, still a lot to come.
Like I said, how do you guys actually manage to sleep at night? Because I do get the distinctive feeling that you guys look at the landscape that is DeFi, and it's kind of like, well, what could we build? Well, we could build whatever it is that we wanted to build. And like you said, it's important to keep the focus and to improve on the products that you guys have already. I hadn't been on Metis for a while. Obviously, things had been quiet. It's been very busy. And obviously, over the last 4 weeks, I actually managed to go in and do a couple of trades. I used your DEX. And I was very impressed, obviously, from the UI perspective. So, Marshall, good job. I think it's like from kind of like the inception of, you know, what Hermes had done. It's like they're like a completely different product now. You know, like obviously Metis really fast, flawless, you know, cheap and all that good stuff. But it was really cool to engage with a DEX that was very responsive. And I think that there's a couple on Arbitrum actually at the moment. One of the more famous ones. It's not as fluid. It's not as you know, because obviously liquidity is being looked for. You know, you'd think there was deep liquidity there, but you can definitely sense that there isn't as much. And I think that what I'm looking forward to is to be able to use, you know, Hermes on Arbitrum. I mean, obviously that's on your radar. You guys are busy with that. Why the decision to go to Arbitrum?
Yeah, so we as we were building over UniV3, we were limited. We are limited from, or at least until the DEX, their business license ends. We're limited from which chain they're launched at. So we do have Ethereum mainnet, but that's not really what we are aiming for, because we do want to basically open up the low fee environment, and we do like Ethereum, and so we won't go for Polygon, and so yeah, we were basically limited by either Optimism or Arbitrum, and Arbitrum has a lot more products, and it has, I think, the major advantage from Optimism is really SNX, but other than that, Arbitrum has a lot more, not only TVL but really real teams and projects building on them and building stuff there. So
yeah, over the course
really
of
good
the
ecosystem. Yeah.
over the course of the last year, they really have become one of the main hubs, also for Ethereum in general, for the asset itself. So a lot of the Ethereum liquidity has also migrated to there. So it's logical to also try to be in the main hub for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite incredible to see just how, like, from a marketing perspective, it's been insane to see how they managed that. I mean, we had Andrew Saunders on here a couple of months ago, and just like the guy's resume is just insane, but they've just really approached the market in the correct way. And as you guys know, timing and hard work is everything in this space. And I think you guys are going to benefit greatly. I mean, I've publicly said that many times, that I believe that in terms of the value proposition that you guys offer, especially on the returns that you offer your loyal client base, essentially, I think that you guys have been kind of like essentially just grinding it out on metis because there hasn't been a lot of volume, but you've survived it. And I wanted to just ask you, what has the last year been like for you guys? Has it been like where you've been in a situation where it's been challenging from a financial perspective, or have you guys been able to manage everything fine and kind of like arrive at where you are now relatively okay? Or were there moments along the way where you were like, oh my God, like what the fuck next?
So being a small DAO, effectively, when we launched, we instantly took a set of measures, both in managing carefully the incentives all the way. Obviously, since Maia as a DAO has a significant share of the voting power over Hermes, so it makes sense for us to also try to protect the users and make sure that there is useful liquidity. So Hermes will always continue to be a main hub in metis, as well as an array of decision in terms of both treasury management and also how we applied the LPs, if we stake them or not, because this also allowed for the APRs to maintain appealing for external actors. So we really paid close attention and on how to make sure that we were able to keep moving forward despite of the uncertainties of whatever may happen. And basically, to answer your question, we really didn't have a moment where we had any sort of second thoughts, obviously, because we remained attentive and always tried to plan ahead.
I just want to say that as Bugsy started out and said that we are a small DAO, we obviously knew that we couldn't, for example, talk to Gauntlet and stuff like that. But I think that's not really something that would stop us from just paying attention to those things. I don't know if it really makes sense.
Exactly, to do the in-house incentive management and optimization.
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of, and thanks for that. I mean, I think that once again, it just proves my point around keeping your house in order and being aware of what it is that you're doing and staying true to the process. I think what you just described to me is exactly that. I wanted to just get into briefly, because we'll do this in more detail later on as we also like publish the articles around these various protocols that you got, because there are protocols within the protocol. And in terms of Ulysses and what it is that product is, can you guys just explain to me what it is in principle and in very basic terms for an idiot like me to understand? And why did you guys decide to bring that on board?
Yeah, so Ulysses is essentially any call with where you can bridge a token. So anyone can. It's essentially a messaging layer that also has a bridge incorporated. I think that's the.
Yeah, I actually agree with that way of putting it. You can look at it as basically a messaging layer, which exactly has also the capability of a native bridgeless swaps between two different environments after choosing. So yeah, that was really a short and sweet explanation.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think the next question is, will there be a token attributed to this product?
Well, just want to say one thing is that, for example, the Curve token supposedly wasn't launched by their team. It was launched by a 0x Chad account on Twitter. So just want to say anyone can launch a token, and it can be
Yes.
adopted or not. But at least for the foreseeable future, we're not really planning on doing that. But
Yeah, I mean,
I guess.
as a community, we already had a chance to debate this, and basically we aligned on focusing on what we have currently, and basically no need to rush in adding 2 tokens to the ecosystem just so they have a token launch with the actual product launch, because these 2 things are completely separate. And what's most important is to actually have sustainable and appealing tokenomics. So no need to simply rush to add 2 more tokens just so you can have 2 more speculative bets. So as a community, we did not basically allocate a lot of effort into taking care of that now.
I like that, because essentially what you would be doing, especially initially, because your community is quite small still, and in my opinion, you guys are definitely like a hidden gem, and you're essentially going to be diluting the value that you've already created for your community. And I think it's best that you don't launch a token. I mean, everyone likes to kind of like speculate and bet, and like you said, it's like it's ever present, but I don't think it's necessary. And I found that with a lot of projects that we spoke to, especially during this bear market that we had, the guys that did really well were the guys that launched products, delivering what it is that they promised to deliver, not only to themselves, but also to the community, and never launched a token. Are the projects that I believe will last for many years to come, and will afford themselves the opportunity to really reap the rewards in the next proper bull market. I'm not sure whether we're in a bull market right now. Sure as hell feels like it. There are moments where I'm like, geez, this is like a bull. Do you guys think we're in a bull market at the moment, by the way? What are your thoughts around that?
I really don't have an opinion on that matter. Can't really say that it's like want to
Yeah.
pitch in on this. I really don't have any particular input. I guess when you're all day looking at lines of text, you're not really thinking about the charts.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I've also obviously because we're super busy. Like I must admit, I've been looking at charts a lot the last 10 days. I'm obviously 20 days too late. I mean, clearly, but the point is that it does have moments where it feels like there's I mean, we've seen the volume on Metis, and kind of like it's considered as a narrative that Metis is obviously the last one to experience that flow of liquidity. But what's interesting about this time around, and I've noticed, is that the liquidity arrived at Metis, it did its thing, and it left for a period of time, like a couple of days, and it looks like it's back again. And that's a good sign. So, I mean, there are definitely like vibes of bull market, but maybe it's just people are bored and they don't care about what's happening outside of the crypto space, which I don't mind, but maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. I was hoping exactly. You guys could offer.
It's always tough to tell effectively, but one thing that you pointed out that you can always sense, and that we also sense, is the social activity as an indicator, and obviously the volume, because since we have an AMM, we have to keep track of that sort of metrics.
Thank you for finally giving me an answer, sir. At least I've got something from you on that. You didn't want to commit, but I mean, I totally understand why. It's like you can't. It's really difficult unless you have, a sustainable period of good volume, good growth, and the rest of it. But despite that, I mean, despite being in a bear, despite having survived and continue to survive because you guys have been so focused, do you believe that crypto as a whole is changing in terms of the way that we're seeing the influx of liquidity, or do you think that liquidity in general sense is remaining longer, or do you think it comes and goes really quickly?
So obviously it's a very dynamic space. So I'd say the latter case would be true. But
Yeah.
Light or Marshall, if you want to add anything on these regards.
Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, nothing big to add. I think we can see like that we have more TVL stuck around. Like even with the bear market, we still have a lot more TVL than we had in the previous bull. So I think that's always a good sign.
Yeah, it is a good sign, and it does show that there is a lot more willingness for longevity and kind of like a longer term view. And I mean, obviously, with the products that you guys are building, it seems like you guys have got a longer term view. Just going back, kind of like back to the introduction of who you guys are and the rest of it. Light, how long have you been in crypto, kind of directly involved?
Yeah, I actually I came rather late to crypto, I'd say, but not really that late, but early 2000, it's really late 2017, early 18. So and it took me actually a couple of years. So only in 2020 did I really start to really pay close attention and really get involved and actually going to projects and well, investigating and stuff.
Yeah, I'd say we all have kind of the same background. Personally, most like at my first interactions in first person, basically with crypto around 2019. But actually, investing my time, it was kind of like Light. Only from 2020 onwards that I really tap in and fully allocate.
Yeah, I think
my time.
I think a lot of us did. I mean, I'd been involved in crypto prior to that, but it was kind of like very, very like superficial. And then I think a lot of people got introduced in 2017, 2018. I mean, it was such a euphoric time. And then it was like, you know, all those years, well, 2 years of like trying to make sense what just happened, you know, what actually just happened. And, you know, obviously
Yeah.
2020, and then 2020 arrived and it was like, oh, so this is what happened. We were preparing for this. And yeah, I mean, my lessons were definitely learned same as you guys, you know, from like the real lessons for me were learned in this last bull run. The one before that didn't learn much really. It was kind of like all too fast and all too kind of like too much of a blur. And what I'm finding is that, you know, obviously engaging with projects like yours, there really is kind of like a place and a space, you know, kind of like your CRVs, CVXs, you know, all those really intuitive, well, not intuitive so much as just mind-blowing projects that really have changed the way that we look at essentially how money behaves and how liquidity flows. And you guys obviously are participating in that process. Kind of like the last part of this discussion, leading from that into, you know, what Talos is, and you know, that's something that you guys are also going to be launching. Can you guys speak a bit about what Talos is?
Yeah, so Talos is really a way to help users manage their liquidity in Uniswap v3. So it's essentially a way. The first positions will be just a rebalance, not just, but rebalancing a position to 50-50. So you can have whatever range, whatever width of the Uni v3 position you want. So you can have a narrow width if you're, for example, a less volatile pool, for example, FBTC. But if you're, for example, FUSDC, you might want a larger range, and you can add liquidity and set a couple of parameters to so that anyone can then rebalance the position. They'll be able to be set up with the Chainlink keepers, so there won't need to be necessarily a relayer network for that. So people can just set up a Chainlink keeper for each Talos position, and we go from there.
And why did you guys decide to do that? I mean, I have to ask you that in light of the fact that I've asked you why on everything else. So why did you guys decide to create this product? I mean,
Yeah,
it seems obvious, but it isn't really.
Yeah, it's not really that obvious, I guess, because UniV3 is really something that's really big and hard to grasp. And even though you there, for example, to create a position, you actually need to have some knowledge of UniV3, but and you also should have knowledge of UniV3 if you're adding to a position of Talos. But it's really a way to help. For example, if you have $100, you're probably not worth in rebalancing instead of, with the fees and everything. So rebalancing a position, if you have if you pull together users, the cost just goes down tremendously. So it's really a way to increase the adoption in Uniswap V3 and allow more people to have more complex strategies. And we just wanted to do that in the most decentralized way possible. So Talos is anyone can launch a position and manage it, and we're really trying to have it as I'm sorry, not remembering the word. It's but as open as possible.
That's great, guys. So I think we've kind of almost at the top of the hour, and I wanted to just obviously do our first interview as an introduction. I hope that I've managed to do that today. I mean, there's just so much that you guys are busy working on that I sometimes my brain actually struggles to kind of come to terms with all the stuff that you guys are doing. So thanks very much for coming on. So what I'd like to do the next time we get you guys is kind of like just get into, kind of like the detail of the individual projects that you guys are doing, more so not only from a value proposition, but also from a technical side of things, because I know that a lot of our community and our listeners really like that. Well, they don't just like it, they love it. So I'll definitely bring that into the mix. We've obviously, just for our listeners who have not engaged with Maia DAO, if you've just stumbled across the stream, we have written some material on what it is that Maia are doing and the guys are doing. So please go to our website at blockmates.com and just do a search for Maia. I will leave it in the description. We are busy working on the more technical aspects of what it is that the guys are busy working on in terms of our long form articles. So thanks, guys, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I know that you guys are super busy. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, really enjoyed this call, and really appreciate that for having us here.
Yeah, likewise. Have a good one, man. Been a pleasure.
Sweet guys.
Yeah.
I really do
Thank
appreciate that. Yeah, man. Everyone, just please like and subscribe. Jeez, I actually remembered for once. I never ask people to do that. So please, if you can just like and subscribe, the algos like it. Yeah, and once again, appreciate you guys, and thanks for joining us.